Up to this point, we have done a total of 3 nether modules. It started out with the classic nether wastes, which featured light up lava pools and a working nether portal. Next, we moved on to one of my all-time favorite LEGO Minecraft modules in the warped forest. Even though it had a relatively small footprint of 16 by 16 studs, it quickly became the tallest out of all the modules I had ever made. And that color scheme looks even better in LEGO than it does in the game. For our third nether biome, we tackled the basalt deltas. This was an especially interesting one because I think it's the most unique of all the nether biomes. And today we continue the nether display with the addition of a crimson forest. This is going to be our most extensive nether module to date. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to building. I promise, you're still in the LEGO video, but our journey does begin in Minecraft because, if you didn't know already, this is kind of the best place to design, well, a Minecraft build in the game. It's a lot easier to build in Minecraft than it is in LEGO. It's faster, it's a lot cheaper, and so that's where we're going to design our Crimson Forest today. You see, the Nether display is a lot smaller than the overworld display, and so the modules we make here have a much bigger impact on the whole, so we want to make sure that they all blend together very nicely. I think for the time being, I'm going to leave this hole. Maybe it will become a full chunk wide, but for now it will be simply 8 blocks, and this will be the Soul Sand Valley. I think keeping a little more separation between our 2 forests will be a good thing. And unlike the warped forest, I'm gonna make this a 1x2 module. So in some ways it will be less reliant on height, yet at the same time I do think we want height to rival and again balance out the 2 halves of these modules. In order to do that, my crazy plan is to actually add a tiny sliver of another fortress, something you guys have indeed been requesting for quite some time. This will serve as more of a backdrop to this, but also give the module the necessary height it needs to kind of match up with that. Nether fortresses are absurdly large, so we're going to scale this thing down just a little bit, but it should still very much look like a fortress that you would find in the game. The design of these is quite simple. It is one of the earliest structures added to the game. And therefore the effect is pretty easy to replicate here. We are going to add some windows. So that's about what we're looking for, and we'll add it on, and we'll add the windows on this side too. And then the bridge is going to kind of end and collapse over on this side like you see from the bridges in game, something like that. My plan eventually is to use this bridge to hang a ghast above the Soul Sand Valley. I think that'll be pretty sweet. Now, of course, too, one thing we have to think about is the colors here. There's only one LEGO dark red, and I've been using that for the terrain. So I think I'm actually going to use dark brown, because it does have a bit of a reddish hue to it for the fortress. I'm guessing I'm going to have to order a lot of bricks for that too, just because dark brown is not a color I have a lot of. It's not a common color either, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and add some terrain here. I mean, it's not going to be totally flat. Maybe we'll get the perfect tree. Oh, it needs to be on the Nylium. You know what? I like that tree. That's a good size. It's a good shape. Put that one there, and then let's see if I'll be able to even grow one here this close to the bridge. Ooh, that's not bad either. And it's slightly different on the top too, which I like. And maybe since the Soul Sand Valley will be down here, we can actually blend some soul sand here to help make that transition just a bit more natural. That'll kind of at least use up that space down here a little bit. But I think roughly this is about what we're going for. So I'm gonna take a quick screenshot of that, and that's what we'll use to reference as we build along. I think one thing that's important too is that we should measure how tall this actually ends up being. 23 blocks, which is not an insignificant amount. So yeah, we'll want to order, before we start building, a lot of dark brown bricks to make that happen. So I source any parts that I don't already have through bricklink.com. And I'm not going to go through all the orders that I did for this particular project, but I'm going to give you one helpful tip that I used to find the 2x2 bricks in dark brown. So these I wanted in a significant quantity so that hopefully I won't run out, but also I'll have some leftovers for when I eventually tackle the Soul Sand Valley. And I do need this in a particular color, which is dark brown. So for this particular brick, I decided that I wanted at least 200, so I put in that as the minimum quantity, and I did not want to pay international shipping for something like this, and so I searched based on that. And again, you get a ton of stores. There are 18 stores in the US alone that are selling more than 200 of this brick, and conveniently Bricklink lists them from cheapest to most expensive. I found a seller that actually was offering free shipping on any orders over $20, even though the bricks he was asking for like a penny more than some of the lowest sellers. Because I didn't have to pay $6-7 in shipping, I ended up getting a much better deal. Now, I've known that I've wanted to do a Crimson Forest module for like a year at this point, so I've been slowly stocking up on some pieces that would be beneficial to have for a mock like that. For instance, I do have a bunch of 2x2 dark brown bricks on hand already. I've also got inverted 2x2 dark red jumpers, which is going to be great. Not going to have to do a lot of crazy snot techniques to get smooth undersides of our nether terrain. Of course, I have 2x2 red jumpers. Those just come in a ton of Minecraft sets. And a while back, I also ordered a bunch of those 6-pronged flower stems in dark red with the intention of specifically using them for a module like this. There's a few other bricks we're going to need to make this module though, and of course that's going to be a lot of dark red, some 2x2 tiles, and some other things too. So the first thing I want to do before I just go out and order some for no reason is check to see if I have enough. Thankfully, I have a lot of bricks at this point, and so chances are I do have some that I need. I do tend to pick up a lot of 2x2 tiles when they're affordable from stores. Thankfully, it does look like I have a lot of red and a lot of dark brown. I was surprised by how much dark brown I have. I think these are mostly left over from a Bricks and Pieces order from a while back. So that's great. 2x2 tiles, of course, are kind of the crux of a Lego Minecraft build, so I'm glad I've got a bunch of these on hand already. Unsurprisingly too, there's a lot of dark red bricks. These are just things that I tend to pick up when I can at stores. They're usually not that expensive. With that order of 200 2x2 dark brown bricks arrived, this is my total collection of that element now. It looks like we're gonna have enough. Hopefully some left over too, but looks have been very deceiving in the past, so we'll see how it goes. I also ended up ordering some 2x2 dark brown tiles just in case I needed more as a backup, and then I went out of my way to order 48 inverted 2x2 red tiles for the underside of the Crimson Fungus trees. Here's the palette of blocks we're going to be using for the Crimson Forest. For Crimson Nylium, I'm going to be using a dark red base with a red tile on top. For the foliage, we'll be making use of that 6-pronged flower stem in dark red that showed up in the Nether Bastion set. The Nether Wart block is going to simply be represented with a completely red block, kind of to match what we did in the Warped Forest. And of course I'll be using dark brown to contrast against the dark red for the Nether bricks. And that crimson stem is going to be very similar to what I did with the Warped stem in the Warped Forest. For this module, we'll be building off a half a chunk base that's 16 by 32 studs or 8 by 16 blocks. And you'll notice here I've already made a modification from my original plan, and that's that I've got a little lava pool in the front right corner. I do have one last set of fairy lights, and it would feel wrong not to put it to use here. Hopefully we can get some lava falls incorporated with that too. Lava falls this time that light up as well. These little light kits that I use are super simple, super cheap. They can slide between a lot of bricks quite easily. And the bricks that I'm going to be sliding them in between, of course, are these yellow 1x1 pips. There's little gaps on the sides of these between each bricks that allow the wires to go through very seamlessly. There's even usually enough room in the corners where 4 of the pips meet to allow space for the bulb itself. Before I start building, another trick that I've recently used is putting these little clay blobs at the corner of the module so it doesn't slide around so much as I attach things to it. It hopefully makes the viewing experience just a little more smooth and prevents things from getting out of focus too, which is always a plus. If you've watched any of the Nether videos before, this is a process you've seen well in every single one of those Nether videos, and so I won't elaborate on it too much. But at this point, I'm going to weave the wire around these pips to light up the lava. It should create a pretty cool effect, an effect that will be consistent throughout all of these modules, since they use the same exact very light packs in each module, and the whole display will light up, which is pretty sweet. The fine tip of the Lego sphere can get where my hands can't, and allows me to tuck the wire underneath the edges of the pips. And as always, once that's done, I'm going to line up the transparent tiles on top of the bulbs so as much light comes through as possible. I use a white plate underneath all this too to bounce the maximum amount of light out and up. Should make the lava look even brighter. And the next part, while probably the most substantial part of this build, is pretty straightforward. That's just building up the terrain. Thankfully, I have tons of dark red bricks and tons of dark red plates to work with here. Like in the first Nether Waste module, I'll be adding a door to access the battery pack. It keeps the backside of the module clean and also allows me to easily swap batteries if I need to. That pile of dark brown bricks in the back left corner is the beginning of our first fortress pillar. Because of the way it's constructed, with pretty much just 2x2 dark brown bricks and 2x6 dark brown plates, it's going to be very dense and very strong. It will easily support the weight that's going to be on top of it. And plus, on the side here, it's also going to be supported a bit by the terrain. Here, I've also remembered to add some gold ore to add some variety to this terrain, to keep it from becoming just a plain dark red wall. After experimenting a bit, I was able to come up with a technique that allowed me to get a lava fall that also lights up. This is something I didn't experiment enough with when it came to the first Nether module, but I think it was time to incorporate it here. After all, I have a lot of extra bulbs to work with yet on the fairy lights, as that bottom lava pool is quite small. By building the lava fall on its side and intricately weaving the wires in, I was able to pull off something pretty convincing. The clips that I've made use of there on the lava fall are just to make sure that the tiles can be placed on top without falling through if you press on them. And then there's still enough room for the wires to snake up in between the gaps. Once that's all tiled off, it looks pretty sweet. Much better than that first Nether Waste lava fall, which I maybe should go back and redo. And there's still plenty of bulbs left over, so I'm wondering if we can make a double lava fall out of this. Here we'll level out for our first ledge, which should include some mobs, and our first giant fungus. Off on the far right side, I'm going to put down another white plate and make a little lava lake again, and then we're going to continue up with our second lava fall. With that little lava puddle in place, we can start building up the second platform. For all this terrain, because of all the 2x2 inverted tiles, I haven't had to use any snot techniques, only just in the lava. That makes the building process for something like this really fast, and I really appreciate that LEGO makes 2x2 dark red inverted tiles. When trying to install my second lava fall, I noticed I had made a pretty terrible mistake. And this happens very frequently in the series, and usually I just cover it up and proceed and no one notices. But hey, we're going in depth this time, so I might as well point it out. You'll notice that that central platform is not a perfect block tall. Yeah, it's actually a whole plate thinner, and that messes up everything above it. So we're going to have to redo this section. Thankfully, I caught it before I went any further. It only would have gotten worse from here. Once we add an entire extra layer of plates, we can proceed without problems. And now our second lava fall fits smoothly into place. It's made using the same techniques as earlier too, and when it's lit up, gives off a pretty sweet effect. If I have the time and it's not too much trouble, this is definitely something I want to incorporate into that first Nether Waste module. It just looks so much better. And I feel like I should have extra bulbs left over on that line in that first module. With everything finally lining up, we can plate off this second ledge. That means the terrain is done, and that means it's tiling time. Once the tiling is done, I'm going to place as many of these 6-pronged flower stems in as I can. While exploring this biome in game, I noticed that it's pretty densely populated with foliage like this, so we want to recreate that effect as best as we can. It might look pretty sparse right now, but bear in mind we're going to have some mushrooms, we're going to have mobs, and we're also going to have those towering fungus trees too. Speaking of mushrooms, our Crimson Fungus build is going to be pretty simple. It's a dark tan pip, 1x1 red plate, and then a 1x1 round red tile on top of that. I'll throw those all over the module too, and the ground is starting to come to life here. I also made some brand new custom Hoglin designs specifically for this module, both of which I'm going to add to this display. If you're interested, I have a separate tutorial on those. Next, we'll put in our warp stems. The bottom one is 5 blocks tall and the upper one is 6 blocks tall. There's some really fun textures on these, and I like how these turned out again. Atop those, we're gonna build up the leaves, I guess, of the fungus. Very simple, smooth red is all we're going for here. What's great about these is that unlike the warped forest, I'll actually be able to tile off the undersides, as LEGO does produce an inverted 2x2 tile in red, whereas they don't in dark turquoise. What's great about that top tree is that it's actually built into the pillar of the fortress, so it's going to be really hard to knock it over. I had a lot of fun designing these weeping vines to hang from the Crimson Fungus trees here. They're very simple, making use of classic red LEGO teeth horn elements and 1x1 red clips. I think it replicates that texture you see in game quite well. And now with all these things coming together, I'm feeling much better about our lush vegetation here. It doesn't look nearly as plain as it first did. Now, unfortunately, I actually ran out of 2x2 regular tiles in red, so I'm gonna have to put in an emergency order for those before we can finish off this module. At least I had enough for the terrain, but there's none for the trees. While we wait for those 2x2 red tiles to arrive, we might as well get to work on the rest of this fortress. As I watch this build come together, the dark brown absolutely was the correct choice for the Nether fortress. There's enough red and purple pigment in the brick that it really does read as Nether brick. The dark brown fortress ends up serving as an excellent backdrop for this piece. And I think by piece count makes it the largest of the Nether modules so far. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite get as tall as the warped forest, but it's not too far off. Now next is the really fun part. This is where we get to crack open the actual LEGO Minecraft collection. We're gonna wanna pull some of the mobs and items from here to populate this module with. And there is no shortage of options for us to go with here. Perhaps one day we'll have to go over these beautiful containers in more depth. Let me know if you'd like to see that. Some essentials for me in this module include blazes, of course. We're also going to want some wither skeletons on top of that Nether fortress, and then we should probably add some more piglins in here too. Because there are so many LEGO Minecraft player skins, I always try to incorporate one of them into the build too. I think I'm going to choose this astronaut, one of the classic Minecraft skin packs minifigures. We'll put all 3 wither skeletons on top of the fortress. I'll scatter the piglins throughout the build too, and we'll have our player hiding away in this cave down at the bottom. I've equipped him with an enchanted sword and this fancy shield. And then lastly, we'll add in those blazes. And all that just leaves one last portion of the build to complete, and that's tiling. I ran out of red 2x2 tiles earlier on, which was a bit unplanned and a bit unfortunate, but of course things like that happen when you're building a mock of this size. When I need parts fast, there literally is one go-to seller that I can always count on, and that's Derek at Pop's Block Shop. But this time around was a little bit special. You see, the thing is, both Derek and I would be attending Brickworld in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Derek even has an option on his Bricklink store for local pickup and lists all the shows he'll be attending, so you can actually pick up your Bricklink order at a show if you're going to be at the same place and save on the shipping. Derek was even kind enough to give me these tiles on the house, so huge thank you to him.
This is the last piece we need.
Definitely check out his store. He offers free shipping on orders over $40, and you'll never be disappointed with his customer service. He's one of the best sellers out there. So you know what that means, folks? One last sweet, sweet tiling time. What a great way to end this episode. With this Crimson Forest module built, we are just one step away from finishing the entire LEGO Minecraft custom Nether display. All we need to do yet is add that Soul Sand Valley to connect this module to the previous 3. And hopefully we'll get to that sometime early next year. In the meantime, we'll be finishing off the snowy village that we started a few episodes ago with another 1x3 module expansion. I'm excited to share this one with you all, and I think it's going to be a great way to get into the Christmas season. But if you can't wait that long, you can always watch this one right now by becoming a channel member. Thank you as always for watching. I hope you picked up a new technique or two. Have yourselves a great life, and I will see you next time.